Here's a little overview of complex numbers. Complex numbers are basically real numbers plus imaginary numbers.
Joy.
I know that sounds very funny, but there is such a thing as an imaginary number, and the imaginary number is basically relating to the square root of a negative number. We call that I. The square root of -1 is I. And then we can do algebra with complex numbers. We can do operations with complex numbers. So let me just talk about this real quick. If I squared I, what would I get?
-1.
I would get the square root of -1 squared, which would give you -1. Exactly. And if I had I cubed, what would that give me? It would be like saying I squared times I, and what's I squared equal to? -1. So what's I cubed equal to? Negative I. And what's I to the 4th equal to? Isn't that like I squared times I squared?
Yeah.
So isn't that like 1 times 1? I'm sorry,
One.
-1 times -1?
So 1.
So isn't that like 1? Yeah, and then couldn't I keep doing that? What's I to the 5th equal? That's I to the 4th times I, and what's I to the 4th equal?
1.
I to the 4th equals 1. So I to the 5th just equals I. What's I to the 6th equal? I to the 4th times I squared. That goes away. That becomes -1, etc. And so it keeps rotating through these four things. I, -1, -I, 1, etc. And every time you get to a power that is a multiple of 4, here's the big takeaway, you're going to get 1. So what's the shortcut? Here's the shortcut. 253. I to the 253rd,
It's not a multiple of 4.
that's going to equal one of these four things. So find out what 253 divided by 4 is. 253 divided by 4, it's 2413. There's 1 left over. It's 63.25. 0.25 means there's 1 left over if you're going into 4, which means it's I to the 1st power. Because I to the 252nd, 252 is a multiple of 4. And each one of those I to the 4th, each one of those 63 I to the 4th is going to turn into just a 1. And you're going to have, what's going to have left over is just I. It's not always that complicated, but that's a good thing to know.
Okay.
In the eventuality you have to do it. So let's do a couple problems with operations with I. Let's say I want to, one more thing. Complex numbers in standard form look like this, A plus BI. You want to write them as, this is the real part, and this is the imaginary part. Every number is a complex number, even the number 5. Even though it looks like it's just a real number, it is still considered a complex number. The imaginary part of it is just 0I. So complex numbers include real numbers. Every real number is not a complex number, but every real number is a complex number, but every complex number isn't necessarily a real number, because it could be imaginary. So let me explain that to you in a couple different examples. 3 plus 4 plus 6I. Write that in standard form. Write that complex number in standard form. What can add together?
12 plus 6i.
3 plus 4 is 7.
7.
7 plus 6I. What's the real part?
7.
So that's your A, and B is 6. If they wanted you to say what the real part and the imaginary part is. Try another one.
So I just have to add together like whatever fits.
Yep. What's -8I minus 7I plus 5 minus 3?
Oh, good Lord.
Like terms, just add like terms. There's your 2. Write the real part first.
2.
And that's -15I.
Yeah.
There's your answer. Let's try another one. Make it a little bit more complicated this time. -3 plus 6I minus -5 minus 3I minus 8I. It's just, again, adding like terms together, but distribute this in first. Now add your like terms. -3 plus 5 is +2. positive 6i plus 3i is 9i minus 8i is 1i. So 2 plus I. That's the complex. That's the standard form of the complex number related there. You can do more than adding them together. How about multiplying them together? Let's do that. Let's do
Awesome.
7 minus 6i times negative 8 plus 3i. Let's multiply those together. And I'm going to FOIL it out, and then I'm just going to use my properties. That's negative 56. That's first. Outside is positive 21i. Yes? Inside is positive 48i. And last is negative 18i squared. Well, wait a minute. What's I squared?
-1.
I squared is -1. So this is really a positive 18.
Golly.
And now I can add these together.
That's wild.
What's negative 56 plus 18?
That's
That is
smaller.
38, negative 38. Do that right? I think so. Plus 69i. That's your answer. And just one more problem. How about 6i cubed? Simplify that. What's 6i cubed?
That's
It's 6
negative
cubed.
6i? Or
It's
6
6
cubed
cubed
is
times I cubed. What's 6 cubed? 36 times 6
is like
180.
180.
196? Is it 196?
Well, we're gonna find out. Let me see.
I think it's 196.
6 times 6
And
times
I cubed
6.
is really negative I. So your answer is negative
216.
1.
It's
Yes,
6 cubed.
that's what I meant. 216.
Really?
Everyone knows it's 216. That's
Obviously.
what I meant to say.
Uh-huh.
So there's your answer, negative 216i. Mental math is not as easy when you're on the spot.
I'm sure.
And that's how you do those simple operation problems. There's some more things you can do. Let me just show you one more little detail, because this is pretty important. This is called a complex conjugate. Notice the only difference is the sign in front of the imaginary part is the opposite. Something really cool
crazy.
happens when you multiply these things together.
Everything cancels out.
The
Wait, I'm
complex, the imaginary part does. That's what happens. So let's do that.
Man,
The
I'm a
first
genius.
is positive 4. The outside is positive 6i. The inside is negative 6i. And the last is negative 9i squared. What happens to these in here?
They cancel out.
They're gone. And what happens to this right there?
Plus 9.
It
Positive
becomes
9,
a positive
sorry.
9. 4 plus 9 is 13.
Golly.
That mess
That's cray.
equals 13.
So why do mathematicians do this to us?
Because it's fun.
What?